Hi, my name is Steve Brecker. I am a retired physical education teacher, and this is my story from atheism to the cross. I grew up south of Los Angeles in a city called Torrance, California. Didn't grow up in a family that was religious or believed in God. It was just a good family, but not a religious one. And I went to high school, and I was an athletic person, and my favorite sport was baseball. And I went all the way through high school, not believing in God, but believing only in baseball and my athletic talent. When I went on to college, I continued pursuing baseball, but I also picked up things like beer and parties and this sort of thing. I lived for myself. I didn't live for anybody else, and I still didn't believe in God. And I eventually got married and married this wonderful person named Peggy. And we moved to Escondido because I got a teaching job in the San Diego County. From there, I raised my kids the best I could and decided that maybe I would enter a church. I thought church is a great place to raise kids. Why not raise them there? So I took my kids and we went to a church. But we had to find a church that didn't talk about this word sin. I didn't want to hear anything about sin. I just wanted a very loving church, a place where we could fellowship and the kids would grow up in an area that would teach moral values. So I got there to church and the youth director said, you know what? You teach kids. Why don't you come work with the high school group? So I did. Started working with the high school group. I still didn't believe in God, but now I'm working with a high school group. Well, within a few months, he comes and says, you know, Steve, I'm going to leave and you're in charge of the youth group. Now, can you believe that? I'm at a church. I don't even believe in God, and now I'm in charge of a youth group. Well, I had to take this book called the Bible, and start reading it, because how do you lead a group at a church without knowing what the Bible teaches? So I started in Genesis 1, read all the way through the Old Testament, thought there's quite a bit of humor in Proverbs, and it's a very violent book. There's a lot of stuff going on in there, that soldiers killing other people and this sort of thing. And I got to these books called the Gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I read Matthew, interesting story about this guy named Jesus. I read Mark and thought, wow, they're kind of reviewing some of the same stuff, but it's a short book. I'll read through it. Then I got to Luke and I said, why am I hearing the same story? Well, I eventually burned out on that, and I quit reading the Gospels. But through reading the Bible and through other events in my life, God convicted me. He convicted me that I was a sinner, that I had broken God's laws, that I was selfish, I was self-centered, I was egotistical, prideful, only cared about myself, and needed forgiveness and needed Jesus Christ. And so I placed my faith in Christ, that Jesus died on the cross to pay the penalty for my sins. And at that point, he dramatically changed me. And I went from atheism to believing in the cross of Jesus Christ. In part 2, I'm going to talk about what happened to my life upon coming to know Jesus Christ. Thanks for listening.